Hi there. It is the very last part of March, and I was looking at my bigger garden that I built a couple of years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago now, and realized it needed some topping off of the soil. So I have ordered and had dumped 2 cubic yards of a mix that I got from the same nursery that local garden center that I originally got the soil that I filled these beds with. It's a mix of topsoil, compost for nutrition, and then also some sand, because where I live in the Midwest, our soil tends to have a lot of clay in it, and if you just use regular topsoil, especially in a bed situation like what I have where they're raised beds, that soil would turn into really hard texture and be very difficult for plants to grow through. So some sand just helps loosen it up a little bit. It doesn't look like sand or feel like sand. It just helps keep the soil from getting rock hard. So let me show you, before we can put in the extra soil, I am finishing up some cleanup that did not happen last fall. So the cherry tomatoes and the pole beans that I had up and over the trellis were some things that I just ran out of time and steam to clean up last fall. So I thought, I'm going to try an experiment. I'm just going to leave these go. Hopefully I won't have 8,000 tomato and bean seedlings, which, seeing how many dropped cherry tomatoes and how many bean pods I'm picking up, is a very real possibility. But my theory was, by just letting it go, I wasn't growing anything here over the winter. It left something with roots in the soil in this area. Some things I did pile up that I cleaned up on the other parts of the garden here, and just didn't have the time to carry the big vines, because these were tomato vines, and tomato plants I tend to grow mostly indeterminate varieties. They get very large, have a very vigorous network of branches. That pile was much bigger in the fall. Over the winter, it has broken down, decayed, dried out. So have these. They're coming out very easily. I'm just basically snapping them off, putting them in my kangaroo bag. I have the one from Fiskars that's got the hard shell. I love it. I'm not affiliated with them, but it's just a fantastic tool. It's got handles. When I'm done with it, I can fold it up. I use it so often, it rarely gets folded up and hung on the wall in the garage. But it's a fantastic tool, very lightweight, but the hard bottom, it's been very sturdy for several years. Anyways, these things are just picking up, snapping off, crunching down, going right in the bag. So I'm just cleaning up a little bit all of these things. There are some places in the beds where there were a lot of leaves. I am taking most of that off because there are a lot of nut trees on my property, and walnut trees, black walnut in particular, other types of nut trees. The trees have a chemical in them called jiglone, which can be very noxious to a lot of plants. In fact, there are some plants that you can't plant near a walnut tree or related types of nut trees, because that jiglone inhibits and makes basically plants sick that don't like it. So I am going ahead and removing some the bulk of the leaves in case any of those nut tree leaves fell in here. I'm also cleaning up bits of the tomato ties, and there's only a few weeds in here. And I think one of the things that has helped with that is I spread alfalfa pellets all over the beds, and you can see what looks like sawdust is actually the broken down alfalfa pellets. So I throw these out. I started doing this with my garlic in the fall because, originally I did it because I heard that when they break down, they add some natural form of nitrogen into the soil. And the first time I did it, you can see here, more bean pods. I noticed that it did this, where it, like, the coating on the the outer coating of the pellet breaks down rather quickly, and then it just, the little bits of alfalfa kind of spread out in the bed, and you get this covering that almost acts like a natural mulch. And a lot of people will mulch their garlic plants when they plant them in the fall. And I decided, let's just get a twofer. Let's get a little extra nitrogen, which the garlic will love. Garlic is a heavy feeder. It likes to be fed. And nitrogen is one of the things that it needs a little more of at first, because you want it to grow lots of leaves, because every leaf is another layer on your garlic bulbs. And so then later in the season, you want to give it a little more phosphorus-based things like bone meal, so that it really helps the formation of the bulb itself. But anyways, so this gives some natural nitrogen. It gives a little bit of cover, like a mulch, without me having to try to get something that is not going to then have to be cleaned off in the spring, because you don't then in the spring want too much covering around the garlic, because then you have other issues where it could stay too damp. You could create a opportunity for funguses to grow. So anyways, so that is here in these areas. And I've cleaned off the leaves that were piled up in the corners there. You can see here where I haven't got on that side yet, there's a pile of leaves. I'll take off some of those, and then the remnants of a marigold plant, I probably will take a couple of the seed pods and just sprinkle it along the edge. See if I can get some of those to come up on their own. But where I planted the garlic, I put down several bags of compost in the fall to raise the level. And what we're going to do today is come into the other areas. You can see where from the top it's quite low, and top these areas off, get them a little closer to a couple inches, inch away from the top as best we can, so that there's no deep places like what you can see here. So I'm just getting everything ready, getting these things cleaned up, and then we will add the dirt in here, and we will be ready to start planting some early spring crops. Thanks for joining me here in Aunt Susan's garden. Oh, I'll show you what it looks like once we get it filled back in. All right, so thank you, nephew. He did a great job. You can see here that we've got the level up in all of these beds, all the way within about an inch of the side walls, and I've got it all smoothed out so it's all nice and level. It has gone in beautifully. These beds are now ready. I will be planting some onions over here very soon, along with some lettuce and broccoli. And you can see here we brought the level right up to the same level as what it was where I planted the garlic. A great day's work, well done.